Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Come on and join us. Come on and join us. Grab a seat. We're about to start.
Hey.
Probably
Good, how are you?
we'll probably get through half the session. I
I'm
don't know if we'll get through the full session.
Is this the same one as you had on Wednesday?
That's correct.
Thank you. Oh, I thought it was something different.
But for you, it will be Susan.
Thank you very much.
Susan, it'll be completely
Good
different.
morning.
It'll be completely different. I guarantee it. Susan,
Yes, different stories every time.
Susan, I guarantee it'll be different. Absolutely,
C-S-I-K.
100% guaranteed.
I will send it to you right away.
Okay. You're right to, all the way to.
Oh, I see.
Susan was in the session on Monday and or on Wednesday, and she goes, "Is this the same session?" I said, "Not for you, Susan. Unless you tell me you go to training on a regular basis for all your life." So if there was anything good in the training section, if there was anything that we covered, there's not a chance anybody could have got it all, including me. Nobody gets it all.
Yeah, right.
So if you want to get it, you gotta become a continual learner.
Yeah.
See, the problem with most realtors, can I tell you the problem with most realtors?
We go once.
Besides the fact that they don't make money. Besides the fact that they don't make serious money, would you like to know the reason why?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You want a little real reason realtors don't make money?
Yeah.
Because what happens is, we are built, the way we're created, we're a goal-oriented type of being. That's how we're built, our whole life. That's why if you go to kindergarten and you fail, and you have to go back to kindergarten, you're not happy. Your parents aren't happy, you aren't happy. If you stay in kindergarten all your life, you're just not gonna be happy. Because you're built and designed to go from one grade to the next. But this works against you. It works for you and it works against you. You have to understand the weakness, the positive and the negative, the yin and the yang, right? Okay, so let me tell you how it works against you. How it works against you is, in order to get into the real estate business, mortgage business, we got mortgage brokers, we got realtors, insurance people. If you have any kind of license and you have to study to get the license, the moment you pass, like, do you remember when you passed, Greg?
Oh, yeah.
Did you fail before you passed?
It was a struggle, man.
But no, but anybody fail the course? Did you fail the exam?
No.
There's people that have failed the exam and then they have to redo it.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
It's no big deal to fail. I mean, people have failed many exams and they go back and write it again and they pass, right?
Right.
Well, when you
Right.
pass, that's what you were trying to do. And now, to be in real estate, you have to have a license, be a mortgage broker, be an accountant, be lawyers, anybody that has to pass an exam. The moment you pass the exam, you have arrived
Right.
in your head.
Exactly.
You passed. And so now you know what you need to know, and now you can go do the business. And now you're going to starve to death for a long time because you don't know what you don't know. So the number one thing that we have to figure out is, what don't we know? So in today's session, I can't tell you everything you don't know. If you come every week, I can tell you a lot of things you don't know, just because I've done it for 20 years. And I'm happy to help you learn what you don't know. But today all we're talking about is this. Real estate is like going to a foreign country. And when you arrive in a foreign country, number one job is to learn how to speak the language. When I came to Canada, it was the number one thing. My mom was smart. My mom sent me to London, England for 2 years before she sent me to Canada, so that I knew how to speak English. Hey, David?
Me too.
David and I, we just met recently. We found out our parents did the exact same thing at about the exact same time. And here we meet years later. Parents from different countries. His mom goes, "We got to send them to London, England. That way we can learn English, right?" But in real estate, people show up and for years they don't know how to speak the language. So today, I'm just going to give you a few little things in a certain area. So I'm going to tell you before we jump into it that there's a whole bunch of areas you need to learn the language in. So for instance, we're not going to do prospecting today. Like, how do you get business? How do you interact with people? How do you build your database? I'm not going to deal with that today, but we'll deal with it in another situation. Today what we're dealing with is mostly, what do we do when we are first encountering sellers and at a listing presentation or prior to a listing presentation? How do I speak the language properly? So before we actually jump in, one more thought for you, and that is insecure people. So this may or may not apply to you, but you just should know. Insecure people lie. They can't help themselves. You think of the people you know, anybody that's insecure, they lie automatically. They have to lie. It's a built-in mechanism. Insecure people cannot just bare their soul to you. So you ask them a question, they'll lie. It's automatic. They don't have to go to school to learn how to do it, they just do it. I'm not saying they're not going to heaven over it, I'm just saying that's what they do. I'm not here to judge them, it's not a moral issue. I'm just here to say insecure people lie. Now, why is that important? When the majority of times, a lot of times, let's just say a lot of times you go to people's homes, or you're interacting with somebody, and you're going to take care of their largest single financial investment. They don't tell you the truth. So you don't have all the facts. You get, what you do get is these, I love these ones. Ray, I don't need to sell. Ray, I'm putting my house in the market, but I don't need to sell. Like, so if you don't bring me the highest, biggest price, you know, I don't need to sell. I'm good. I just want to list my home and run 100 different strangers in and out of the home for the next 6 months, but I don't really need to sell. Who's heard that one? Mm-hmm. I don't need to sell. We're good. But when can you get started, Rick? And how much are you going to charge me? What the heck does it matter how much I'm going to charge you when I'm going to get started if you don't need to sell? The reason people talk like that is because insecure people lie. They just don't, the lies just come out. So part of being a pro is knowing how to talk to these people. Try to get to at least some semblance of the truth. Cover your butt. See? Now, in the early days of listing property, we're always hung up on the fact that we may have done the CMA market analysis right, and we've got the right price. We think we know how to communicate the right price, and we can't get the guy to sign it because he wants a different price. So part of that whole process is learning how to talk to the people properly. If I go to a listing presentation, I'm going to come back. If the guy's a good guy, if the people are good people, and if they have a good enough reason to sell, Dennis, remember the place we went to? They're good people, right? They have a good enough reason to sell. Do they have any idea of market value? No. We take the listing. But when we take the listing, in no uncertain terms, we have communicated with these people that they've done the wrong thing with the price. Otherwise, you're going to take the listing and they're going to go away. If you leave them thinking that you're going to perform some kind of a miracle, you're not a miracle worker. What you're going to be is a schmuck. You're going to be considered the biggest ass on the planet because you just wanted to get the listing. I want to get the listing too, but I want to get it at the right price. But if I don't get it at the right price, I need to make the other person understand that I'm prepared to work on this if you're going to give me some time. So one of the first things is that you need to know that's going to be a trade-off. If you know what you're trying to accomplish, you'll learn the language better. So what we're trying to accomplish when we list a property is to get it sold. So if somebody has the wrong price, what do I need to adjust?
Time.
I have to adjust the time. Now I have to be hard-nosed about how long I listed for. And the first time he does a price reduction, let's say, have we got a price reduction in that property?
Nope.
No. Well, when you get the first price reduction, from the day you took the listing to the time you got the price reduction, whether that's a month or 2 or 3 or whatever, you add that back onto the time that you started with. It's automatic. It's a non-negotiable. When you get the first price reduction, let's say you listed the property and 3 months later you get the first price reduction. You add the 3 months back into the listing on that form. Just as a little side note, when you present an offer and the seller counters the offer, you never, you see, there's certain things once you understand this is how the business works, you just do it every time. So you never get a counter offer on a transaction, just similar to what I'm talking about, but it's just a side note, just a sidebar, help you out here. If every time you get a price reduction, you extend the time for the time you missed, by the same token, every time you get a counter offer from a seller on an offer, you drop the price of the counter offer. Every time. And if you're, and see now, would you like the language? This is how do I say that in real estate language?
So, you're willing to take it for this price? Would you like me to let all the other realtors know so they can bring some more people here and put some pressure on?
See, there's one way of saying it. What I usually say to them, what I found is this. A lot of my life was spent at my dining room table with my mom and dad and my sister. And in the dining room, my mom had this huge Dutch clock that she picked up from something. When she was in Aruba, she bought this clock, and I grew up with this clock on the wall. Every day we had to wind the clock up, and we watched this pendulum and this clock swim back and forth. So I learned an internal lesson. So whenever I ask a question, I lose them on the question. I'm way over here with the pendulums up here. So I ask the same question as Cameron, but I usually ask it like this. I say, do you know these buyers? Like on the offer that we have, do you know these buyers? Do you like them? Do you know them? No. I said, but you would sell it to them for this price. And they go, yeah, we want to counter back at this price, which is below the list price. I said, so would you sell it to anybody for that price? Well, yeah. I said, great. Well, I said, then we need to make as many buyers aware of this as possible. I said, so I need you to sign this form, so that instead of just countering this guy, I want to tell all the realtors in the whole Lower Mainland that we are now at this price. If you'll sell it to this guy for this price, you sell it to anybody for this price.
Now, if you say they've offered 10 grand under your listing price, now you're offering it at the 10 grand lower price. So
If they're signing the counter offer,
yeah,
if they're signing a counter offer to this guy for 10 grand less than the list price, my question is, would you sell it to anybody for that price?
they would, but the hesitation that I come across is that they say, well, we don't want to go 10 grand under that new price. They'd gladly, you know.
And my response is, this
Yep.
is the language again.
Yeah.
Folks, I'd rather bring you offers you turn down. Let me hear you say that.
I'd rather bring you offers that you turn down.
The whole room. Than not bring you any offers.
Absolutely. Whole
See,
game
no,
is to get
you
offers.
see those words I just said? That's all part, that's not in my shoulder this morning. Rebecca's gonna keep adding them. But every time I meet people and at every listing presentation, those words come off my lips all the time. So there's certain phrases and statements, if you're learning a language, you just automatic. You just have to learn these statements. Like if you lived in Montreal, you're gonna say bonjour. You're gonna say bonjour like 100 times a day. Because everybody you meet, you say bonjour to. Well, I said that this morning. Did the rest of these people hear me say that? No. Folks, I'd rather bring you offers that you turn down than not bring you offers. I have never had anybody have a comeback on that. Oh, here's in the same line as that. Would you like another one? Ray, I know what the market analysis is, but don't we need to list it a little higher so we have some room to negotiate? You know where they learned that question? Have you ever seen these guys who own property? They meet at Tim Hortons every morning. It's a group of them. You ever been in Tim Hortons? A group of guys in the corner. They teach classes to people who own property, and these classes are designed to help them know what to say when you show up. I'm being a little facetious, right? But there's always a group of guys somewhere that knows everything, and that's the kind of thing they talk about. No, we all, you always got to list a little higher because you need room to negotiate. And I say, you know what, folks? I said other realtors might need room to negotiate, and you guys might need room to negotiate. I don't need any room. And they go, why not, Ray? And I go straight to my next script, which was, I would rather bring you offers that you turn down than to not bring you any offers. If I list the and then I go to my next script. I go to another script. These are all tied together, so you might want to make a few notes. You might want to go, you know what, folks? If I'm working for you for 3 or 4 months and I bring you no offers, what are you going to think of me? You're going to think I'm not doing any work. But if I bring you offers every week and you turn them down, you're going to be going, that Ray's unbelievable. I tell them right up front, say, here's the deal, folks. If I list your property and you're not happy with me, I am not going to have much of a business. My business is built on people being happy and telling other people, man, you gotta talk to this guy, you know. That's how the business is built. And so if we do something wrong, like get the price wrong, then I have to show them what responses they should have. Let's jump. My battery's just about dead. I gotta find a
Oh, I
battery.
have one for
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I forgot to do it.
Okay. Most people you talk to about selling their real estate, they will tell you what's going on. They might even tell you why. They might even tell you how, you know, they're doing what they're doing. They might tell you what they're doing. They might tell you how they're going to do what they're going to do. But they're never going to tell you why they're doing it. It's very difficult for people to tell people why. I've been to people's homes and I'm listing the home, and they're getting divorced, and it's about, I don't get that information in the first meeting. I ask a lot of questions, but they don't just blurt it out. They're not like little kids. Little kids they don't have all these inhibitions. I remember, well, just recently, this happens a lot to little kids where the mom and dad are separated. And I just was in a coffee shop with a guy who was doing an exchange with his kids, and his wife was coming, and he was gonna hand the kids off, and I knew the kids. I've known the kids since they were born. And the little girl hadn't seen me for a while. She comes right over to me, and the first thing out of her mouth. First thing out of her mouth. She doesn't say hi, Ray. She says, my mom and dad are separated, you know. I said, really? Just right out of her mouth. I've heard many little kids just, boom, they say that. Adults won't do that. They're gonna keep all their reasons hidden. But your job is to uncover the reasons. If you don't speak the language properly, you're gonna have trouble uncovering the reasons. Therefore, you're gonna have trouble helping them. Okay. So, this could be like question number one. This could be like a phone conversation. This could be you meet somebody in the mall. You could be your first contact. I don't know why realtors want to waste a lot of time. I know why. I do know why. The reason people have trouble asking blunt questions is because everybody thinks that you can lose what you don't have. Like, if I lose my phone this morning, I can't look at Denise and say it's your fault because you were sitting there on my phone. It's my phone. You can't lose what you don't have. So if you don't have a signed contract, you don't have any business, you can't lose it. What you can do is waste a whole bunch of time working on something that somebody else is going to get paid for. I'm not working so another realtor can get paid. Life's too short. Like, I mean, if this person's got somebody they're hooked up with, I can go find somebody else. Like, there's how many people live in the Lower Mainland? Like 2.5 million. Like, I can find somebody else. Why are you thinking this person is my only source of? I'll tell you why you're thinking that. You haven't done your job. You haven't built a database. You haven't got a pipeline full of people, and you just haven't prospected enough. That's a whole different session. But just because you haven't done your job, now why do you want to jeopardize your time? You cannot replace your time. Once the time's gone, it's gone. So ask people, do you have a realtor? Are you working with a realtor? Are you working with another mortgage broker? Why do I want to do the work and then find out that I don't get paid? I just get that off the table. And if they ask, what might they say to me? Do you have a realtor? What might they say? They might say yes, or they might say what else?
Sort of. We are. Yeah.
Sort of. Well, we may be sort of working with realtors. So my next question is what? Who knows the next question?
Do they send you listings regularly?
No, my next question is if you signed anything.
Oh.
Have you signed anything? See, because I already know that unless they actually happen to have a sharp guy that they might have met, and there's only, the chances of them meeting somebody sharp is 1 out of 10. Only 1 out of 10 realtors know what they're doing. 90% of them haven't got a clue what they're doing and won't get anything signed. So I just go, I read my next question. You signed anything with anybody? No. Would you like to talk about, no, so now I'm working towards, would you like to have a little meeting to decide whether we could work together?
So, I'm having the question. If they have not signed, it means that there's not an ethical problem on moving forward in trying to get that customer for yourself.
No, like their brother might be a realtor. Their nephew might have just got into business. In their mind, they're thinking there's somebody out there that I know that I could work with.
Even if they have been talking with a realtor.
Makes no
Doesn't
difference to me.
No sign.
Okay,
I'm only concerned, in the real estate business, there is no such thing as verbal offers. Only morons, I mean, there's real estate, people that have licensees that are also morons. Have you not had a moron phone you and say, Ray, can you talk to your people about this deal and see if they'll accept it? Have you, anybody in the room heard people like that say that? And you run off to actually phone me? I usually ask them, I said, my people are gonna think I'm a moron if I phone them up and ask them if they'll accept such and such a price. But I'm prepared to take what you're asking me in a contract over to them. Well, Ray, we don't want to waste your time. I always want to reach through the phone and grab these people and go. That's how I get paid. You might call it wasting time. I call it getting paid. That's how I keep them happy. There's not a seller on the planet that if you show up with offers every day is going to go, I think that realtor's an idiot. No, when you don't show up with offers, they say, I think that realtor's an idiot. I hope nobody makes a phone call to some seller of theirs and says, I've got this realtor that's talking about writing an offer. Would you guys consider taking 20 grand less than what we're listed at? I know realtors do this. Am I right, Greg?
We try it.
Oh, yeah. But you've had the calls, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody that's been in the business for a while has had the calls. And if you don't speak to them properly, so there's question number one, which led to a whole bunch of other questions. So do you have a realtor? And then what do we do about that question? Now, you know why this is a question? This question has made me hundreds of thousands of dollars. This question right here. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. I listed over 100 properties for over 15 years, year after year after year, with this question. 97 out of every 100 presentations I went to, I got it because of this question. And the people who I beat at the listing presentation, the people who I beat at the table, never would ask this question. They're scared to ask this question. I guess they're scared. But if I'm arranging a meeting, which is a listing presentation, let me just stop and just say this. You are not going to make a bigger sale in real estate than a listing. Y'all get that? I know, so I'll say it again. The biggest sale that is made in real estate is when you are able to go take a listing and you make it saleable. The process to take listings properly and bring it to the marketplace, there is no bigger sale. That is the sale. Now, when you took the course and you got your license, they would not have told you that. That's one of the spots they missed. The people that know how to sell, the people that do well in the real estate business understand that the greatest sale that you'll make in real estate is a listing that's priced right, that pays right, that's taken for the right amount of time. There's a whole list of things that you got to get right, not just the listing. But if you get all those things right, matter of fact, I never take a listing without rating it. So every listing that's taken is rated. Is it 85% saleable? Is it 80% saleable? Is it 75% saleable? I generally the majority of listings that I've taken, I've listed over 1,500 properties. The majority of those properties were over 75% saleable. So out of every 100 I listed, I sold 97. I didn't sell them all. I took a few that were at 65%. I've taken some at 65%. So if the lower you rate, the less chance you have of selling. But that's the question.
And is it based on?
So what do you
on
say,
that or
like,
not?
if you go to a client, seller, and he says, and you tell him that your house is say worth $600,000, and he asks you to put, no, I would like to put it for $650 or $675 or $669, $900. What do you do in that? Like,
So it's a sidebar question. I'm gonna get to that, but I'll answer your question because I know people wonder about it. So first of all, the answer to that question is I have to show the seller the current absorption rate. And so if I was to make a general statement right now, the current absorption rate in Surrey is about 10%. I mean, it might be 12%. That's the current statistical rate from the board, month by month, year to date, or 10 to 12%. But at 10%, at 12%, we have eight to 10 months of inventory, right? So with 8 to 10 months of inventory, if I price your home above the last sales by 10%, and we're only absorbing, the marketplace is only absorbing 10%, I price it out at 10% above the price the market is absorbing, how long is it gonna take me to sell this property?
2 years.
Easy. If I price it right, the absorption rate's about 8 to 10 months. I price it wrong, I have to compensate by the length of the listing. But it also opens the door for me to compensate somewhere else. Now, I say to him, you know what, folks, if you're trying to get a price that's unbelievably high, maybe we need to do some extraordinary things, and maybe one of those things is the commission. So maybe we need to add some more commission. And you add a bunch of commission up front, it'll stay with the listing. It will stay with the listing. Because if you change the price, and extend the dates, you're never gonna go back to the commission. So I'm not saying, you cannot have all your listings like this. So there are some presentations you go to where you have to be so hard-nosed. Now, that's why you need to ask this question. Because if you ask that question, then you can position when you go to make the presentation. See, if most people, what will most people say? Will you be interviewing other agents?
Yeah, I've got a couple of it.
Even if they don't say it, you gotta get it out. So if they say, well, no, we're not, do you believe somebody that you've never, let's say you just got a sign call, or you met somebody at an open house, you haven't known these people for years, and they ask you to come talk to them about listing their home. And they tell you, will you be interviewing other agents? They go, no, we just met you, we think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You look like an awesome guy, and you believe that? You need counseling. Like, I think is there a counselor in the building, Rebecca? There might be there's a counseling service in there, you should go sign up. You need therapy. If you believe this stuff, you need therapy. They're lying to you. Of course they're talking to somebody else. You're not that good, you know. None of us are that good. Most of us are good at a few things. I'm only good at a few things. There's some things I'm totally screwed up on. But when you work on what you're good at, you can get really good at that. And you can get good at this interview process. Will you be interviewing other agents? And then some guys want to go first. I think the guys that want to go first, they think they're really good at everything. I want to go last because I'm only good at a few things. And if I go last, and they've interviewed everybody else, and I get it out of them that I'm coming last, I only have to be as good
and the last one.
as the best of the best hand. I just have to be as good. What if I was better?
Okay.
Yeah. And I know how to be better. Matter of fact, this question leads to another question. See, you see, because sometimes I've had people, with this question I have to sell it. It's not an automatic sometimes. So I'll be on the phone with somebody and I'll say, you know when are the other agents coming? Well, Ray, we've got somebody coming at 7 o'clock. Can you come at 4? I said, no, I'm booked. It's automatic. I don't even have to check the calendar. I said, I'm booked at 4. I said, so how long is that person gonna be there? I can come at 9. I've been in people's homes till 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm up for this. The other person's coming at 7, I'll be there at 8:30. But I'm not coming before that person. How much is the commission on a home listing?
For an average Surrey home,
Yeah,
about 24,000.
and where you at? Thank you. Like for 20,000 on my side, Or for 10?
17 on the seller side.
you know, from anywhere between 12 to 25,000, I'll work all night. I don't need to sleep tonight. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. I don't need to sleep. 2 cups of coffee before I get there, and I'll stay with them all night. I'll sleep in the next day. I'll cancel some appointments the next morning. But I'm not going before this other person. So now this is how I have to sell. So I say to folks, this is a script. Folks, if you let me come last, I promise you, I will show you some things that nobody else will show you. Guaranteed. Now the moment you say something like that, now you really gotta know that you've got. For those of you that have been to the listing presentation section, you know that several times in my session, through that whole thing, I will show you at least 3 to 5 things. 3 to 5 things that I'll blow them out of the water with. Nobody else will come up. So that's how sometimes I have to sell this question. Can I come last? I promise you that if you let me come last, I will show you some stuff that nobody else will show you. Look, when you work for a company like ours, it's a no-brainer. Nobody else is gonna, would you like one of the things? I give you one easy one. There's nobody else in Canada that has a larger marketing budget than we have. Nobody. Our biggest competitor has a marketing budget that's less than what we spend in Western Canada. So the #1 competitor to Remax is Royal LePage in Canada in market share. And their marketing budget is less than what we spend in Western Canada.
The national.
Their national marketing budget is less than what we spend in Western Canada. I have never met a seller yet, there isn't one that I know of in Canada, that wakes up in the morning and prays, Lord, I want you to send me a guy from a company or a lady from a company who spends no money on marketing to market my property. There isn't one. They don't pray that prayer. They pray that prayer, they go straight to hell. They don't pray that prayer. There's so many things, that's just one little thought, but there's so many things you could bring to the table. And so like that to me is, like you gotta do that. I have to do that. I have to come last. If you wuss out on this, and you're not making, you're losing list. Rebecca and I were with a guy. He's been in the business for 17 years, 2 days ago. He's with one of the top companies in the area. I just about fell off the chair. He loses between 15 and 20 listing appointments year after year after year. This is not some guy with a no-name company. He loses between 15 and 20 appointments every year at the tune of about 7,000 a piece, 7 to 10,000 a piece. And he's wondering whether you should join us or not. You know what I said to him? It's a no-brainer. I said, if you come over here, I said, I can guarantee you that half those appointments will be in the bag. He could actually have half those appointments just with the pre-listing package I'll show him how to make. Never mind learn how to say anything, just get the pre-listing package right, and half those appointments would have been in the bag. I don't know how can you be in the real estate business and let that kind of money go by the wayside? Blows my mind. Okay, then I come last. Okay, say this is a quick one. But depending on where, this is just a quick question, but if you ask it, it'll save you so much time. So what can you tell me about the property? Like, I'm not showing up at somebody's home, and they're talking to me either on the phone, I met them at the coffee shop, I don't know where I met them, but it's the preparation questions that you have to ask sellers. What have you done to the property? And depending on what they tell me, then, for some people, this is the minority. For the smallest group of people, with that question, you might be able to prepare the analysis and then go straight to the home for the presentation. For some people, for the smallest amount of people. But for the majority of you in the room, don't do that. Don't do that. But I know some of you could do that. Some of you that maybe work in a, like if you work in a townhouse area where there's just townhouses and you've been in every one of those units and the people live in one of those units and you've sold, you know what I'm saying? There might be, you know what I'm saying, Greg? There might be a time and there's a certain situation where you could do this. But the moment people start, but by asking that question, and depending on what they say they've done to the property, or maybe what the previous owner's done to the property, and if it's a single family property as opposed to a townhouse, like a row house type of thing, you have to say to them, what have you done to the property? And whatever they say, you say, I'd like to come by and take a look. So a proper listing presentation is a two-step sale. I'd like to come take a look. And what's going to happen when you take a look is, once you took a look and you're there at the house, what's the question they're going to have?
How much is it worth?
So Ray, how much is this home worth? Or if and so you have to have an answer to this question because you're going to get asked this question all the time.
Do you want me to tell you right now without doing my homework?
That's one answer. But let's back up. Let's back up to it. You're on the phone with these people. You're going to get this question. Agree? You're going to get this question lots. Let me tell you how to answer this question. On the phone, here's the script. I don't know. I haven't seen your home yet. That just got to roll right off your tongue. I don't know. I haven't seen your home yet. Can you say that? Quick.
I don't know. I haven't seen your home yet.
These things just have to roll off your tongue. I don't know. I haven't seen your home yet. I don't know. I haven't seen your home yet. I don't know. I haven't seen your home yet. I don't know. I haven't seen your home yet. And then when you're at the home and you've seen the home, when you look to the home, and they go, so Ray, what do you think this is worth? He says, I don't know. I haven't done my homework yet. Let me hear you say, I don't know. I haven't done my homework yet. I don't know. I haven't done my homework yet. Like some of these phrases just fly off your tongue. I don't know. I haven't done my homework yet. I said, but I'm going to go do the homework and I'll come back. Should I come back at 7 or is 8 better? When's the last person coming? Whatever the last person's coming, I'll come after them. So, right off the bat, I know they've asked this question to other people and they've got numbers from them. So there's a basic thing you got to understand in learning the language of real estate. The first person with numbers loses. You're going to lose. You want to go down, you start talking numbers. So somebody says to me, well, Ray, well yeah, okay, you're going to meet people who go, Ray, come on. Ray, look, you've been in the business for 28 years. Come on, you know what the house is worth. What do you think it's worth? I mean, I know you got to do the but come on, we're right here, Ray. Come on. Are you going to get those, Greg? They're going to double sell you. They're going to go like, so Ray, what do you think it's worth? And I said, let me ask you a question. What do you think it's worth? There's another script. You tell me what you think it's worth. I said, what do you think what did the assessor say it was worth? So I said, what did the assessor say it was worth? He knows that question. Yeah, now he's hesitating, but he's not going to. I said, tell me, what did the assessor say it's worth?
500.
Really? What do you think it's worth?
550.
Really?
Well, tax assessment's always low, right?
I said, in a rising market, the tax assessment's always low. I said, so are you thinking the market's rising? I'm not going to tell him the answer. I am not going to give up my position. The moment you give up the high ground, you cannot get it back. Like if you don't want to be in sales and you've got a real estate license, go find a job being an assistant for somebody or become a mortgage broker. It's true, See, mortgage brokers need us to live by. They need us to, and But if you're not going to ask the tough questions and you're not going to get good at this sale, then you should be. If you're not going to be proactive, you need to be reactive. You want to be reactive. go use the license for something else or give it back. But otherwise, what can you tell me about the property? And then all the other questions. Okay, here's a good little one. Whenever people talk to you about the value of their home or coming to figure out what their home's worth, when they phone you, it's like you think the world is coming to an end. When you get those phone calls, the sense of urgency is like, Ray, the world's coming to an end and I really need to know what my home's worth. It's like, I gotta drop everything in the world I'm doing to come and help let you know what your home's worth. And I don't find out when you're thinking about selling. I must be a complete moron. Folks, I'm happy to come and do that. You know what, I'm gonna come and take a peek. I'll go do some homework. I tell them exactly what I'm gonna do to kind of get, so they don't ask me the dumb questions. I said, let me tell you how it works. I come by for about 10 minutes, I take a look at the house, take a few pictures, I go back to the office, I do some homework, I come back, sit down with you, spend about an hour, hour and a half, answer your questions, and then we can begin the process. I said, all things being equal, I said that if everything works out, I said, how soon would you guys want to get started? Oh, no, Ray, we just want to know what it's worth. We may or may not list it in September. Oh, no problem. I said, well, I gotta tell you. I said, I'm happy to come and tell you something, but anything I tell you is gonna be wrong in September. Now, if you don't know that script, it's gonna cost you a lot of money. If that doesn't come out of your tongue, it's gonna cost you. So I need to know when you're making this decision, because I need to tell you that whatever I come and tell you today, tomorrow, or the next week is totally useless in September. It's useless in June. It may or may not be valid. It is only valid the day you're going to sign the listing contract. It has an expiry date on it. It's finished. It's over. It's today's analysis. The market could change in a month. All we need is like 5 or 10 plane loads of Chinese people coming here and buying stuff up all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And the market will change. So anything I tell you is not like, this is not God speaking, this is Ray speaking. God can see the future, I can't. So what I'm seeing is like, this is what we're talking about right now. And that has got to be super clear. Matter of fact, take a big felt marker with you, do the analysis, and then cross it up and shred it right in front of them. I said in August or September, when you're thinking about doing this, I'll come back and do it all over again. I'm not leaving that package room, not the part with the money. I might leave the part. I might rip that out, but I might leave the package with the marketing stuff. I might leave that. When would you be making the decision? Okay. How are we doing for time? Rebecca, we need a clock.
10:18.
We need a clock. What criteria are you using to select a realtor? How many people do you think have a criteria? I never met one. I never asked a question over 1,000 times to a seller whose home I'm going to, and I go, so what criteria are you using to select a realtor?
Well, I want to see what everyone's going to say, what everyone's going to tell me they can get.
That's about it. That's about the best. Cameron just gave us about the best answer. Well, I'm just trying to see what everybody's going to say. And I said, so are you aware? Now here's the script. This question just leads to another script. So are you aware that educated sellers have a list of questions, interview questions, that they ask realtors? Where I used to work up north, there is no realtor there that likes me. They all hate me. They were happy when I left. Because by me asking that question, that's gonna open up a can of worms that is bad.
You get the list of questions I said?
Do you have educated sellers, folks, have a list of questions that they ask every realtor that they're interviewing?
Are you aware that
Are you aware that educated sellers have a list of questions that they ask realtors when they interview them? Now, are they thinking they're educated sellers?
Yeah.
Well, they went to those training sessions at Tim Hortons with their buddies, right? They must be educated, and they've never heard of this list. or questions. And I say, would you, there's some questions I'm gonna ask, I already know the answer. I've never had anybody say, oh yeah, Ray, I got that list of questions. There's nobody that's gonna say that. Not that you're gonna meet, unless you go behind one of my people. The chances of that happening is slim to none. Are you aware that there's a list of questions that educated sellers ask realtors when they come for these interviews? And the answer is no. So the next question is pretty simple. Would you like that list of questions? Now the list of questions that you're going to give them will destroy the other realtors. Absolutely destroy them. Nobody's going to like you. Now I got to say, like, just to be fair, the real estate business is not for everybody. And if you are going to have trouble having the other realtors that come before you hate you after you get the listing time after time after time after time after time, you don't want to do this. Like, if it's going to keep you up at night. I'm just lucky. I'm just lucky because my great-granddad was from Afghanistan. And so those Patan genes are in me, right? So I'm okay. But other people might not be. I understand that. If you're going to be bothered by the fact that you're going to beat everybody else that comes to the presentation, you don't want to do this. Because you'll kill them with a list of questions. So don't do it unless you have a list of the interview questions now. Oh, now there's a guy that's worse than me. This guy's worse than me. He's younger than me. This guy's aggressive. He was the top single agent in Abbotsford last year. And the year before. And he's got a new question. I've never asked this question. But he's actually taken up Mindy on this question.
Is it Aaron?
So what this guy does is he actually says, look, folks, would you like to save some time on this whole process? Would you like to save some time? And the people would say, yes. He said, I've got a solution how you can save time. He said, just invite all the realtors at the same time. I'll send you the questions. You can just sit there and ask us all the questions. So he was going up against a gal she's been the top agent in the Valley, top team leader in the Valley for 15 years. And she said, I'm not coming to that interview. Why do you think she's not coming? What was the word? Scared. Scared. I'll tell you, the quickest way to improve your business is to scare off the top agents. All you gotta do is get tougher. All you gotta do is work on yourself and scare the competition out of the water so they don't even bother coming swimming. If you want to run with the big dogs, you gotta get off the porch. So I didn't say I did that, but I mean, for anybody that wants to really get gutsy, you really want to work on your craft, ask them to a group interview. Yeah.
I've done that every time. Everybody goes, no, I'd rather just see them one at a time. That's the sellers. So I go back to the, can I come last? But
Well, you see, now from the seller's point of view, some sellers are just not going to have the confidence.
Yeah.
They're just not going to have the confidence to sit there and ask questions to 3 or 4 or 5 realtors. They're just not going to have the confidence. But I'm going to tell you what's going to happen if you keep asking that question. They're not going to meet anybody that's going to ask that question. You see, here's what you're trying to communicate. This is a little sidebar. You have to be technically correct when you're speaking any language. Don't you? If you're not technically correct in any language, people will misunderstand you. Fair? So learning how to say the right things is one thing, but what you need to realize that when you speak the language correctly, you leave people with a certain impression. They feel a certain way. So what you're really trying to accomplish in this whole thing is to make these people feel a certain way. You're not there to get all the right answers to all the right questions. That's the secondary issue. The primary issue, here's why, when I'm at the listing presentation, after I've been in the room for about 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to ask them a really tough question, another tough question. the tough question I'm gonna ask is a question of perception. What I want these people to do is decide, I want Ray working for me, because I want somebody who's strong. Or I want some weak person who doesn't know how to negotiate his own commission, who comes from a company that doesn't sell that much real estate, who doesn't care about an advertising budget, who doesn't care about a lot of things. I just wanna go with a wuss. Or I wanna go with this guy. That's what I'm really after. I'm there to get them to say, you know what, I think I wanna go with Ray. Guess what? I know more about real estate than any seller. My job is to communicate that so they go, you know what, if I list a property with Ray, I can relax. This guy knows what he's doing. You know, like Dave, when I go to my dentist, I'm totally relaxed because this guy knows what he's doing. My dentist is good. I can go to sleep. He knows what he's doing. He's not going to screw my mouth up. That's how you want to make people feel by learning how to speak properly. You want to make them feel, you know what? I've interviewed 3 or 4 people, but Ray is. I've had people make the decision before I got the paperwork up. I've had one party in the room make the decision, and the other party in the room is wondering, what are we doing? Because you see, in the process of me asking these questions, I don't want to be there for 3 hours. I'm hoping to be there in less than an hour, get the paperwork signed, get the process started, and I will keep communicating with them. But I don't need to be there for 3 hours. So just so you know, every chance I get, I'm trying to short circuit the whole thing. And one of the questions that I'm going to ask some questions early on that I could short circuit the whole situation and sit down and do the paperwork. But I'll get to those. Okay, so this is so what I'm going to do now. What time is it?
27.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then we'll have a quick coffee break. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go through the questions that I would have sent to them. But here's what's going to happen with these questions. Some of these questions they would have asked you anyway. Okay, it's not like these are the greatest questions in the world. It's just nobody's organized them and given it to anybody. But they're going to ask these questions anyway. So what I've done is just organize the questions, given it to them, because I do know that if I give them a list of questions, they're likely not to ask any other questions. Like, I want to cover all the questions that could be asked, and I'm going to give it to them. And so it's not rocket science, but people are going to ask you, how long have you been selling real estate? And for some people in the room, you know, if you've been selling real estate you just started, or you've been in it for less than 5 years, you might have trouble answering this question. No, some people are going to have trouble.
Easy question to answer.
I know, but some people are going to have trouble. So Cameron, tell us the answer.
There's a couple of them. You know, I've only been selling real estate for a couple of years, but I want you to know that in my office there are hundreds of years experience. And if there's a question that I can't answer, I'm one phone call away from getting all the support from you.
It's a good answer. There's several answers, but there's a good one. Would you like another one?
I got another one.
You got another one? Go ahead, give us another one.
Are you worried about how long? So there's really 2 ways to answer that question, because there's 2 ways you can have experience in real estate. So you can be around in the business for 20 years and sell, you know, between 3 and 5 homes a year. I said, or in your first 6 months, you can start, you can sell a house every 2 weeks. So which kind of experience do you want working for?
It's pretty new, but he's got a good answer. Cameron's been in the business less than 2 years.
So the rate of selling.
This question tricks people because we think. Have you met somebody that's worked at a mill for 17 years? You've met people that have worked at a mill or they've driven truck for 17 years. So how long does it take to learn that job at the mill? How long? Like if you went to do that job at the mill, how long would it take you to learn the job?
3 months.
What did you say? Well, 3 months. 3 months max.
Max, yeah.
Yeah, max 3 months. So but this is a misconception and a faux pas that we have in the language we speak. It's a trick.
Yeah.
We trick ourselves into thinking that I've been doing the same thing that I did in the first 3 months for 17 years, I must be just unbelievable. I've got all this experience. And in the real estate business, see, Cameron's second answer is a powerful answer, especially if you explain and say, folks, matter of fact, you should laugh when they ask that question. You should laugh. I'm glad you asked that question. I said, because if I said I was an average realtor and I've been in the business for 10 years, that means I would have sold about maybe 40, 50 homes. The average realtor in the Fraser Valley, been in the business for 10 years, has maybe sold 40, 50 homes.
In 10 years?
In 10 years.
Oh, wow.
The average realtor.
Oh, they would survive.
They got a really nice wife that works, got a good job. Or a really nice husband who's got a good job. You know, vice versa. They're not making a living doing it. We have the stats. The stats are from the board. The average realtor in British Columbia makes $35,000 a year.
So because they are part-timers?
Well, they drive taxi in Surrey, don't they? They work at Safeway. They're all over the place. You know, I mean, I'm not making fun of the fact that these people make money doing this. We're not making fun of that. But we're clarifying the question people ask, well, how long have you been in the business? I've been 17 years in the business. I've been an average realtor. I've probably sold 40 homes. I mean, I gotta tell you that we got people in our office in their first year who do 20, 25 transactions, which is 4 or 5 times the average, national average.
I mentioned that within my discussion with somebody, I meet offline, you know, even if they don't want to sell or something, I tell them that I did this in 2 years.
Yeah. You know, if you ask people what they're looking for when they ask that question, and you're looking for somebody that's been in the business a long time and is an, you know, because if you are, let me tell you what the average realtor does in a year. I never knew in my first year that I did well. I just worked hard. I had no idea. But my first year was my worst year. I did 50 transactions. I had no idea until after the fact. Then I realized, and I kept increasing it every year until my average over 15 years is 100 transactions a year. So when people ask this dumb question, there's several good answers. But now I'll give you one and then we'll go for a break. The answer, because this is more of it's an answer I wouldn't have given years ago, but it's an answer that really could work well today. So today, we have a cultural belief, you know, we have cultural belief in our society that it's better to have teams working for you than individuals. It's just culturally acceptable. So you say, folks, when you say how long have I been in the business, you mean me or my team? Were you looking for an individual person, or were you looking for a team of people? And when you Remax the look, I mean, if you go pull the board stats on Remax the look for just this year. Our office has been the #1 office every month this year, so far. But we've been the #1 office in the board 9 of the last 12 years. And we were #2 the other 3 years. Our buddies down at Remax Treeline beat us 3 years. 3 different years. And you know what they beat us by? Like about by that much. So when you work in an organization like this, you have that kind of muscle, you deal with those kinds of questions. Turn it on. So folks, were you looking for a guy that's got 10 years of experience as an average realtor? Because if you are, you're looking for a guy that does about 4 deals a year. Now that's the kind of person you want representing you. See, they don't know these facts. Well, I got a friend that just started in the business. Well, he just started. You'd be lucky if he does 4 deals this year. So my question to you folks is it important that we get this house sold in a timely manner? When you're new, you gotta use the team that you're associated with, if they're any good. If they're not any good. Okay, we'll go for we're done at 11:30. I know it's tough.
Yes.
We're down at 11:30. We'll continue it's a 2-part session, so I'm barely going to do the seller side, and I'm not going to cover all the questions. And Vineet asked me, he says, "Ray, will you show me how to do a listing presentation?" Because he's new. He just came from another company, and I said, "I'll do this. I'll do the session just for Vineet. Well, I'll invite everybody else.
Oh, please.
Yes, that'd be
I'll
fantastic.
do it just for Vineet. I'll invite everybody else to come the day we're doing it. Just talk to Rebecca. She'll set it up." You see, because here's the thing about a listing presentation. If you realize this is the most important sale you're going to make, look, I got to always qualify. If you want to be average, just keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to change anything. If you want to be good, if you want to be one of the best, you got to change some stuff. So number one, you got to change the way you talk, and you have to send stuff to people. You have to put stuff in front of people that'll knock their socks off. Just knock their socks off. Look, here's the deal. Dennis knows the town that I grew up in, and maybe one other person. But Dennis knows where, not grew up, but where I grew up in the real estate business. I was in a redneck town. There wasn't even 20 families that looked like me in this town. And the guys in the town told me, Ray, you are not going to make it in real estate. Nobody here will do business with you. It's a redneck oil field town. So that I needed that. I just needed that little. If they had that guy that told, there were several guys that told me that, it really helped me out. So I determined, I'm not just going to do well, I will master the business. I'll make it so that my goal wasn't to be the top agent, but I became the top agent. My goal was just to be better than anybody else and do way more business. And the guys that told me, the guys that said to me, so if you have a good reason, having a good reason helps you a lot in your business. Everybody's got, I only tell you that not to brag, but to tell you, you need a reason to do this business. So whatever your reason is, it has to be very clear, it has to be written down. Everybody in life has to have a major, definite purpose. Go read Think and Grow Rich and learn about your major, definite purpose. When you have a major, definite purpose, you will do whatever it takes. If you do whatever it takes, you'll get there. It's guaranteed. If you don't have a purpose and you're just wandering, you'll be average. Okay. You're going to get asked this question, but it's one of the questions let me just help you here. The reason people will ask this question is because nobody is sitting at home praying, Lord, I want somebody to list my home, and them and their company, they don't really, they don't sell that much real estate. Send me somebody that that they can learn how to cut their teeth. Send me somebody that can learn how to sell real estate on my house. It's like if you own a Jaguar, you take it to a guy that's just getting started in mechanics, and you say, can you work on my Jaguar? I mean, I know you're learning, but here's a good car to work on. No! You want to take it to a pro. So, how many homes have you sold in my area? So whenever you answer this question, you have to have a concept, and I've said this many times, and you guys should grasp this. Whenever people ask you questions that are specific, you never answer a specific question without answering a general question, because there's a general question behind every specific question. Let me say it a different way. You cannot influence people without taking them in their minds from general to specific, like a funnel. If you want to lead, and if you want to influence, whatever question comes your way, it doesn't matter what the question is, the answer to the question is first general, less general, more specific, less general, more specific, and very specific. Now, amateurs don't know this. Amateurs shoot themselves in the foot all the time because they got a license. They have the right to sell. They have no ability. Having the right without ability is like a license to create embarrassment for yourself, to beat up on your self-esteem, and to go around day by day feeling like a moron. So, always learn the principle. Whenever somebody asks a question, general. You're getting more specific, and then really specific. So how many homes you sold in my area? I said, well, so here's one answer. This isn't the only answer. But I go, folks, when you say area, I first of all think, when I say area, I think of Western Canada. Because Western Canada is bigger than most countries. There's not too many countries in the world as big as British Columbia, never mind Western Canada. It's a pretty big area. Matter of fact, you come from a country like England, whenever I meet the English, I always take it up. You know how arrogant the English are, so whenever I meet the English, a side note, See what I mean?
I love it.
See, you can get them to rise up every time.
We're opinionated, but we like discussions.
Whenever I meet the English, I always say to them, I say, we get talking, I say, do you realize we could take your country and drop it into one of our lakes and lose it? And you've got to realize the reason this causes a big, this is how you understand how the human mind works. I lived in England. When you're living in England, you cannot conceive of a lake bigger than your country. It is inconceivable. Before I came to Canada, I lived in South America, I lived in England. Before I came, I looked in the map, I looked at all kinds of things that was available. We didn't have the internet back then, but I looked at all kinds of stuff. And I still couldn't get it. I just couldn't conceive of the size of this country. There's so many things you cannot conceive. And see, one of the problems with conception, if the mind cannot conceive it, nobody's heart can believe it. That's a very powerful thing.
Nobody's what?
You cannot believe what you cannot conceive. You won't grasp it if you cannot first conceive it. And you won't commit to it, you won't believe in your heart what you cannot conceive. And so the first step in influence of people is you have to help them conceive. You got to give them a conception, you got to give them the big picture. And so the answer to that question is, folks, how many homes do you sold in my area? Out comes my market share graph for Western Canada. And I slip it across the table and I say, there's the market share graph. I don't have it here. It's on it. It's here. You can get it. But on the market share graph of Western Canada, Remax has number one market share with close to 36% of Western Canada. The closest competitor is down on like maybe 20-some%. But what's really interesting is in our neighborhood, there's dozens, scores of companies who wouldn't even show up on that graph. They wouldn't show up on the graph at all. So people can get that. And see, especially when you spend the money we spend, putting our brand on everything. I've actually answered the question. I don't even need to go any further. That information is so powerful, it blows them right out of the water. But I can drill it down. I can drill it down into our area. And now in our area, depending on which area you're in now, we do have some local companies that are pretty strong. So depending on your area, now you gotta be careful now. Like if you were in Abbotsford, there's no competitors. You go to Mission, there's no competitors. You go to Chilliwack, there's no competitors.
In Vancouver Island, you have very specific local.
Yeah, but in our area, like I gotta tell you, in Surrey and Richmond and parts of the Lower Mainland, we have some serious competition. So if you're gonna answer this question correctly and get your point across, you wanna start general, and then you wanna drill it down. And you always wanna, listen, you cannot do anything about what the other guys are doing. You can only do something about what you're doing, and you've gotta position yourself properly. But you don't need to go into areas where you're gonna have some troubles. Because we got enough strength. Play to your strength. So, I know that sometimes one of our competitors might say, "Hey, we're the number one office in Canada." One of our competitors will say, "We're the number one office in Canada." The number one office in Canada, and are they right? They absolutely are right. They have the most realtors in this one office, and actually, it's not one office. It's like a group of offices.
19.
It's about 19 offices with about 1,700 or 1,800 agents. Nobody else in Canada has that kind of association in that many places under one roof, supposedly. I don't know I don't know the details, but that's what they say. So I'm not going to argue that point with them. But I got to tell you this: if you took their total production and divided it by the number of people who work there, you wouldn't want to work there. Their total production divided by the number of realtors that they have there, it is so pathetic, it's unbelievable. That's where we pull a lot of the water. Because in our environment, you're gonna make money. Because if you were average here, you would probably be producing 4 times the income of the average agent in that group. But I'll tell you what, when you're measuring certain things, the guy with the biggest number of licenses could win. But if you measured it down to your own production and what you're going to be doing for that agent, you can beat him all day long. So you just got to know how to answer that question, and but general to specific.
Does the Remax sell 1 in 3 homes in Canada?
Absolutely. Like in Canada. Look, any one of our competitors sells a home, we sell 3. We used to have an ad that we ran for years. It was like a hockey game. So in a hockey game, if the score is 3-1 after the first period, it'll be 6-2 in the second period. It'll be 9-3 in the third period. Against any competitor. We outsell all competitors in Canada. Okay. What do you know about the market in my area? Now, sellers aren't going to necessarily, they may not use those words, but they want to know what you know. Now keep in mind, these are the first 3 questions on my list of about 20 questions that I send to the seller that they're going to ask every agent. I'm going to tell you, if you come in with a market analysis that is exhaustive and you know the area, right there you can win the listing right there. You could win the listing right there if you bring proper information, because there's nobody that's looking for somebody that's incompetent or doesn't know what they're doing. So now let me tell you, you cannot learn this overnight. You can't learn this overnight, but I'm going to tell you how to learn it. Everybody that joins, that works with us and joins, one of the things I get them started on is I get them started on a weekly, what's that thing called in the blue book?
Accountability?
No, it's the market. Remember that those sheets we have on doing market area studies. So every community you live in, like let's take. I mean, I know Abbotsford off the top of my head. I don't know the Surrey stats, but Surrey's probably like 3 or 4 times bigger than Abbotsford, or White, maybe similar. But if you work in an area like White Rock, there's probably 15 to 18 different areas in White Rock. Like if you get the map and break it all up, you do the same for Surrey. You do for every neighborhood. So whatever area you're working in, chances are you're working in at least 20 to 30 different little areas. Am I right, Brett? Every one of those areas has a school, or 2, right? Mm-hmm. Every one of those areas either has or shares a recreational complex.
That's right.
Every one of those areas, they have all these things that every single community has. And so what you do if you're going to be serious about the business and you're going to be a student of the business, if you haven't got that sheet started already, you go to Rebecca, she'll get you that sheet. And every week you fill one out. You attach a map to that area. It's a comprehensive sheet. You have to know you should know who built that area. Who are the builders that built that area? So when people phone me up and I know the area, and I ask, here's what happens. I'm talking to somebody on the phone and I find out their address. I go there in my head. Now if you don't have a head that does that, then you should have a map nearby. It's just that I think that, I go right down the street and I know exactly where the cross streets are, right? I know the area. I mean, Clayton is a good area to think about, right? It's not far from here, but if you drive through that Clayton area a few times and somebody tells you to live at this corner, you know where that new store is, you know where the single family, you should know all that stuff, right? And if you work the area, then then you ask questions. So do you guys live in, what type of home do you live in? There's only 2 or 3 different styles. So what style is, the moment you ask those kinds of questions, that question is answered in the seller's head. That question is only going to stumble somebody who doesn't understand, that hasn't done their market studies. There's probably, I'm going to say, for most people in the room, you probably need to complete 25 of those studies. If you haven't done that, do one a week. And in 25 weeks, you're gonna be 10 times the expert you are today. And if you wanna be in the business, you gotta be good. And I'll tell you what, people wanna know that you're good. So you can't be incompetent. Okay. Do you realize the RE/MAX is kind of like a educational institute? We have the largest online university in the real estate business. Other companies couldn't even come close to us. So you need to make use of this. Or if you've got some designations that you bring to the table anyway, great. But people, if you put some designations behind your name, you're gonna save yourself a lot of grief. And the reason is, people don't wanna hire dumb people to work for them. So if you don't have any designations, if you have none, get some. Let me tell you what to get. If you have none, get your ABR, ABR. Accredited buyers representative. You can get it right here in this room, on that camera, here, you book it. You can book the room and get 2 or 3 of you together. You can do it right here. It's about a 2-day thing. Rebecca will help you organize it. You have to pay for it, but instead of flying off to Toronto to get it, you can do it right here. We have it right here through the university. But you should have your ABR. If after you get that, you should have your SRES, Seniors Real Estate Specialist. And just the discipline of doing those 2 things will help you so much in day-to-day real estate. Just like that ABR might make you nothing but money. It might cost you, I don't know what it costs to get it.
300 something.
Yeah, it's not that much.
I think it's a PDP also, the board.
Is that?
Yeah, I think it's pretty decent.
Yeah, you can get it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know one thing about it. I know if you have it, you'll get PDP points anyway. So it's like you might as well get it.
Exactly.
You might as well get it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, what was I talking to the girl on the board the other day? I did a PDP class on Monday, and she was telling me this wasn't available when I took my CCIM. When I got my CCIM designation, I didn't get any PDP credits. But now, every time you take a class, if you take a CCIM class, it's anywhere from 6 to 9 credits. And those classes come all the time, and some of them you should take. Okay, get rid of that question. Okay, this question is a great question. Now, let me just stop and tell you. Can you imagine you're one of the other agents that shows up, and the seller's reading these questions off to you? So what's your average time versus the market in terms of selling my home? You show up at a listing presentation, you haven't asked the questions, the seller's prepared because I've given them the questions, and you're gonna sit there and speak in tongues, stammer. You should know these questions. Now, you need to prep because these are the questions you would give, but you also gotta be ready to give that answer. Now I gotta tell you, don't get excited about this. You can do it yourself, you can do it for your office. If we did our office against the board, we're so far ahead of the board, it's mind-boggling. But some of the agents in our office, for sure, many of the agents in our office are so far ahead of the board in terms of the board has an average. This is how long it takes to sell a home. The top guys, their average is less. Matter of fact, I don't know if I have this question. I'll just tell you what it is, and I don't know if it's going to come up, but while I'm thinking about it, you can use average time versus the market because people are concerned about how long it takes to sell the property, right? And so you can position yourself, and it's a great question. I think it's going to come up, but the next question, another question that's like it, is this is a great one, and that's what's your average sale price versus the market? I think it doesn't.
That's the next one.
Yeah. What's your list price to sales price ratio versus the market? See these 2 questions right here? Those are on the list that I gave to the seller. When the other agent did not have that, could not answer that, right? They have to go home and do research for this. They're not coming, nobody's coming to the listing presentation ready to answer these questions. I'm sorry, they're not. So they're out the door because they're gonna screw it up. And when I show up, you know what? I seldom show up when they ask me the questions. Because I've answered all these questions in my list, in my pre-list package. So now this question, the answer to this question will wipe out low commission providers right off the table. See, what are people concerned about? Are they concerned about getting a low commission, or are they concerned about getting the most money in their pocket?
The most money in the pocket.
But because they're ignorant and they don't know how to negotiate, they think the way to get the most money is to ask you to cut your commission. And if you don't learn how to master the business, you're gonna be forever answering those questions. My job is to educate the people that come near me, to help them understand that if they deal with me, they'll make more money. Once I continually educate everybody that comes near me, that if you work with me, you'll make more money, the question of commissions is not an issue. It's a non-issue. Now let me tell you this, you've gotta have good stories. Stories sell and facts tell. Facts only tell, the stories sell. So you have to have a good story. It has to have worked. Now, I'm gonna say this if you're new, you borrow somebody else's stories until you get your own. But once you start doing the practice right, you will have your own stories. This happened a few years back in Port Moody. This client of mine calls me up. He'd been a client of mine since up north. Moved down here ahead of me. Then I hooked back up with him. Called me to sell his condo. I went to the condo, and the neighbor next door had just listed and sold his condo next door to him. And he called me up and he says, I can't believe what my neighbor did. He said he listed the property, and I think the price was $249,000. He listed for $249,000, and within 2 weeks he sold for $244,000. And he did it with a discount broker. So my guy calls me up and he goes, Ray, he says, come and take a look at my home and tell me, and then go do whatever you gotta do, because I educated him. He says, but I'm thinking there's no way this unit is worth $249,000. It's worth more. So I did the analysis and I came back and I said, you know what? I said, I cannot tell you it's worth any more than $325,000. But it's worth $300,000 to $325,000 all day long. But the person next door got a heck of a deal on the commission. They might have saved $10,000 on the commission. It was awesome. They saved $10,000 in commission, sold it in 2 weeks, happy. I went and listed that property, made a long story short, my guy was very aggressive. He goes, Ray, he says, I know what you do, don't worry. He says, just price it at $369,000. He says, I'm okay. He says, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but just put it on at $369,000. See, now I've educated this guy for years. I've done, this is probably my third transaction with him. He was a client of mine up north, so he's been educated. He knows I'm gonna make him sign off. I make him sign off that the price they picked was their price, not the market price. I make them sign off. And they're coming back on me. You're not going to the coffee shop and talking to your friends and telling your friends I'm an idiot. I can't live with that. So you have to sign off that this is not market value, but this is what I want to do. And then go tell your friends, how's Ray doing? Ray's doing great. I'm the one that's trying to do something extraordinary, not Ray. Just so you know. Making a long story short, we were in a rising market at the time. I sold that thing in about a month. Matter of fact, one of the things I remember about that place, I took a new agent with me to do the open house. I have never seen an open house that went like this. The two of us together could barely keep up with the traffic through this place. It was unbelievable. And then before that, we went an hour early to knock all the doors. Because I never do open house without inviting the whole neighborhood. Everybody was invited. We sold that thing in about a month for about $357,000. But the neighbor next door, boy, he saved him $10,000 in commission. My guy paid through the nose for the commission. There was no discounting of the commission. I earned that commission 37% more than what most of the other agents in the area. Not the discount guy. The discount guy earned less. But I earned 37 to 40% more commission I charged him than what anybody else would have charged. But commissions are an issue in the absence of value. And if you don't make the value big, the commission's gonna look big. What people walk away with in their pocket is the most important thing. You just gotta help educate them. And here's the deal. Remember I said you gotta leave people with a feeling? The feeling you have to leave them with as a real estate agent, you have to leave them with the idea that their money in their pocket could be in jeopardy if they hire somebody who doesn't know what he's doing. A guy that doesn't know what he's doing, that's giving away commissions, works for a company that doesn't sell very much. That the production per agent in that company is very low. They're not gonna bring a lot of buyers. You see, one of the things that we have as an advantage, we have so many other things, but one of them is this. We get the most referrals of any company, of any group of agents in the country. So we have the majority of buyers coming from Calgary are coming to RE/MAX agents in the area. Because we got #1 share and we got like almost 50% market share. And that's in every major center. So when you know how to explain this, here's the facts of life. Facts of life is when I have a buyer from Edmonton coming in this weekend to buy a home, that's the one that's gonna pay the most for a home. They got 2 days to buy a home, they're coming from Edmonton, they're getting a home bought. When I have that kind of power, if there's people that are offering to pay me next to nothing, I phone them up and ask them. See, you gotta know how to deal with discounters. You gotta put them in their place, you gotta get them out of the throat and squeeze them. Squeeze the life right out of them. When I have people from out of town and I have somebody with a discount commission that I could show at home, I phone them and ask them. I say, look, I got some people come from out of town, they're gonna buy a home this weekend. I need you to, do you want me to show that listing of yours? Then I need you to send me something regarding how much commission I'm gonna earn if I sell it. Send me an email. Phone your sellers and send me something in writing.
Yeah.
And I'll try and include it in what I show. This is not a nice business sometimes. Hey, Beatrice?
You have to ask mine.
This is not a nice business some days. But if you're gonna win at it, you gotta know how to speak properly. And when you don't always have the upper hand. When you have the upper hand, you gotta take full advantage. That'll help you. What's your list price to sales price ratio? How much are you willing to spend on advertising, marketing? How much are you willing to spend on marketing? I could just imagine my competitors trying to answer that question. You know, keep in mind, these are the questions the sellers are reading off the sheet that I gave them. Of course, I'd love to answer this question.
22 million initially.
Yeah, you know, the way I answer that question is I just take the graph out and I show them. I hold the graph up, it comes out of my book, and it shows the map of Canada, and it shows what we spend in Western Canada is more than any competitor spends in the whole country. What we spend in the whole country is more than the combined ad efforts, marketing efforts of all of our competitors combined. Really? Yes. End of story. Commissions are an issue in the absence of value. When value is on the table, commissions are off the table. You put enough value on the table, you're going to get the listing. You're going to get it. Here's one of the things we do here. For those of you that are visiting and checking us out, we not only will help you get the listing, but I'm going to help you get the listing and get paid 35 to 40% more than you're going to get on your own.
So I'm here.
Yeah. How much are you willing to spend on marketing? That's a chance. If somebody else from another company is up against you and you've got these, we got 6, 7 questions on the table, I got 20. They're hung and quartered by this time. Okay, let's drill this down even more. Because you have to drill it down even more because you're not always competing against average people. You might have the odd time where you're going up there, right? You might have the odd time you're going up against somebody good. When you can take down the good ones, then you're doing good. You're not always going to be up against the morons. I mean, in Surrey, you might be up against morons all the time, but I mean, you know, even in Surrey, we have some good agents. Do you zone farm a neighborhood for buyers? I don't know how many listings I took with this question. I don't know how many, it's just mind-boggling.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Vineet has the answer to the question. The question, he asked, what does that mean? That's what the seller's wondering. Can you imagine the agent that gets asked the question? They're finished. They don't even know what the question means.
Yeah.
These people have a license, but they're ignorant. When I explain this to my sellers, because they don't know what it means. I say, Ray, what do you mean by do you zone farm the neighborhood?
Any apartment?
What it is like, yeah, I say to them, look, what it means is this. And I make it sound like everybody should do this. It's pretty obvious, folks, what it means. You live in a home that's worth $500,000. We know, we all know, everybody knows. The buyer for that home typically is coming from a home or a townhome that's worth about $350,000 to $425,000. Typically. I didn't say every time, I said typically. The majority of home sales typically are people moving from one type of home to another type of home. Yes, there's some people who are moving down, and there's some people coming in the first time, I understand. But typically, they're coming from a lower priced home to this home. So when I list a home, I did this, when you realize and when you can tell people and prove that this is what you do all the time. Now let me just stop here for a second. You can't just say it, you gotta prove it. So in the back of my listing presentation are all the proofs of all these things that I say. Every time I do a flyer, every time I zone farm an area, every time I do any of those things, I get the printer to print me extra copies. I just will fill the dumpster with all my extra stuff that I kept over the years when I moved. I had a dumpster at the front, because I had shelves where I had extra stuff, and all these extra stuff would go into my listing presentations. So when I made up my pre-list package, I bring all the stuff, extra flyers off of this, flyers off of my zone farming, my just listed cards, my just sold cards, they're all in there. So when the seller gets this package, it's like woof. It's like woof. It's just bang. So zone farming is a consistent program that tries to get people out of a lower priced neighborhood into your listing. You know what the return on that is? Anybody know what the return on that is? That type of activity consistently done over a year?
10 times.
The return is low, but it should be 10 times what you spend. I've tracked it for years. So if I spend $1,000 and I make 10,000. Now when you zone farm, you don't need fancy material. Matter of fact, we have a printing department that specializes in this. So it's econo color. It does not have to be expensive. It just has to be done. You see, you don't need to spend a lot of money doing something that other people aren't doing. There's another little thought. You don't have to blow the budget on something that nobody is doing. Because anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Could somebody zone farm better than me? All day long. My pieces that I sent, could they be blown out of the water? Absolutely. Mine were so cheap looking, it was unbelievable. Guess what? I didn't have any competition. There was nobody trying to move people consistently on every listing from here to there. And then could I put it in a form of question? How many sellers are going, well, that doesn't make any sense to me? How many people are going that? Well, no, they're like, wow, that makes sense to me. You actually list the house and actually do something. That's what sellers want to know. They want to list the house. Are we done with that one? Okay. Question? Stop me anytime you want. Now we're going to keep going. So now, it's a similar question. It's a similar question, but it's actually a little bit different. So do you mail flyers of my home to the public? So there's several different answers to this question. So one of the answers is, and this could be mail or email. So one of the answers to my question is, I have a list of buyers in my database that I've had for years, and you should have the same. So when you talk to people that you've never met before, they fall into one of two categories. There are the people that don't own real estate and want to in the future, or there are people that own real estate and they may want to sell or buy something else in the future. You put those two groups of people together and you send them an email on every flyer, everything you list, and you're going to get a return just out of that. you will get a return. You will spark their interest. They will tell you about somebody they know that needs that property. But if you consistently do that, which I did that consistently, you mail flyers at my home to the public. See, first, the biggest problem that other agents are going to have is with the word consistent. The top agents have trouble with the word consistent. The regular agents won't have a clue about consistent. This is about consistency. If you consistently do that, like see consistent, so now that's one answer. The second answer is, I would never list a home without sending at least 250 pieces, which is a typical mail walk. So a typical mail walk in Canada is about 250 homes. So every listing that you have, why would you not tell 250 people that you just listed that property? Why wouldn't you? Why would you put a sign on a property and not talk physically to 20 neighbors while you're there putting the sign up? I put a sign up the other day, way out in the country, and I got a chance to talk to 2 neighbors. Because they saw me putting the sign up, and I went right up to them and talked to them. Told them what I was doing, and that's what I've been doing for years. It was a commercial property, actually, but one thing I learned this from a guy who sold a lot of commercial property in his life, and when I first got started, he was on his way out. And he says, Ray, he says, I'll give you a tip. And I've used it for years. The tip was, he says, whenever you put a sign up, especially on a commercial property, but it works on residential too, typically, the buyer for that property is within eyesight of this property, lease, or home, or knows somebody. These are the best people, right here.
That's what most.
These are the best people. When you put that sign up, now, I made a simple thing out of this. I put the sign up, I talked to 20 neighbors. Every single sign. When I first started and I didn't have signs, every week I find a sign that somebody in the office listed, and I go talk to 20 neighbors because I know that the person who put the sign up was too scared to go do it. I love fear.
So what do you talk to them? What do you say to them?
I answer their question. What is the question that they have?
What are they asking
What's the
for?
price?
How much is that home? Why are they selling? Every neighborhood has those 2 questions. I just will take it away from them. I said, and the listing contract, we promise the seller gives us permission to do that in the listing contract. You pull up the listing contract that you get people to sign, about 3 or 4 lines into the contract, it says in the listing contract that the seller gives us the right to promote this property. We don't have to go check it. So I reversed the wording on that. It's because I went to London to learn how to speak Queen's English. I reversed the wording on that, and I go, folks, I'm knocking on your door today because the seller asked me to come and let you know what was going on.
Can you repeat that, sorry?
I'm knocking on your door today because I promised the seller that I would come and let you guys, you neighbors, be the first people to know what they're doing. I've never had anybody go, well, Ray, I don't want to know what they're doing. See, these things are unbelievable. I've never had anybody say, well, I don't want to know what they're doing. I don't want to know the price. And every one of them wants to know how much are they asking. You see, because, these people have an asset that's very much like a stock. And they don't have a stockbroker that phones them every week, or every month, or every year, or every 4 years to tell them what's going on with the largest asset that they have. They don't have a broker that calls them and keeps them updated. So when I show up, I can become their broker. They don't have anybody that keeps them up to speed. The reason they're asked that question is that you own a home or you own a stock. Who in the room might have bought shares in a company, 5, 10 years ago? Would you like to know if it went up today? Makes you feel good. Never mind going to sell, it just makes you feel good, doesn't it? Does everybody feel good if you know you got an asset somewhere that just went up in value?
Yeah.
That's just human nature. It's not rocket science. It's human nature. So, by asking those questions and explaining the answer properly to people, because you're the only one that's going to be able to explain this one. Okay? And I go, I still got another answer. That was 2, but I still got a third answer for this one. The third answer is that every 6 weeks, every month 6 weeks, I mailed, besides what I did the first time, I mailed or emailed to my people that I have in my group. Whenever I'm preparing that mailer, I already have a few neighborhoods that I've chosen. So if you're gonna be in the real estate business, you should choose a neighborhood. Let me help you with how to choose this. The way to choose a neighborhood is I figure you're better off to choose a neighborhood that people want to leave. I never chose a destination neighborhood, and I never tried to be the realtor for the richest people in town. You know what I want to be? I want to be the realtor for the most people. And I eventually want to be the realtor that shows up in the richest part of town with a buyer that can buy whatever's listed up there. I don't want the listings up there right off the bat. When I get the listings in the rich part of town, I don't solicit them, they call me. And the reason they call me is they hear about me, because I serve the masses. There's more poor people than there is rich people. Become the servant of the poorer people and work hard for them. And you should have at least a couple neighborhoods, but I'm thinking close to, a couple of neighborhoods close to 1,000 homes. And every time your printer does anything for you, like the zone farming thing, right? That you did to that particular zone farming, or the stuff you're mailing to your database, just get the printer to crank out another 1,000 pieces. That's the cheapest 1,000 extra pieces you're gonna get. You get paid, you pay more on the front end than you do on the back end for printing. You give that to get it folded or whatever and send it out to those two neighborhoods. And you just literally, over time, take over 1,000 homes that you don't even know the people. But they're move-up homes. They're in a neighborhood where at night that you can hear them praying. What are they praying that night? Lord, if we're really good, can you get us out of here? That's what they pray at night. If you pick those neighborhoods and you help those people move out of there, move into their dream home, that you'll have their whole family. All out of that question, you mail flyers in my home public. Look, I'm going to tell you, I would explain that, and I would stop and say, here, when I get to this point where I'm explaining I'm answering the questions that they're asking, I say, does anything I'm saying make sense? And they all go. Commissions are not even going to come up. Or if they come up there, the worst commission thing that will come up is somebody will say, Ray, will you charge us the same as so-and-so office to give us a deal? Will you give us that deal? And the answer is simple. Folks, you either want that person or you want me. Don't ask me about it. I just answer you. The question you have to answer is, do you want that guy working for you? The guy that offered you this deal, do you want him or do you want me? I've been in some tough sessions that lasted for hours. And I'm not bragging, I'm just saying, by the time I get this far with the educational process, they don't want the other guy. They're just wondering if I would do it for that much money. You hear that, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all you're trying to do. You're just trying to educate them so they go, I don't want the other guy. And so when the question of commission comes up, don't answer the question on commission. Just ask this question, because the guy that asks the best questions makes the most money. Just ask him, folks, stop. I can leave right now. Did you want to work with that other guy? No. I want to work with you, but I'm just wondering if you'll do for that price. Real. I don't think the BMW dealer is going to sell the Beamer for the same price as the Chevy. Are they going to? No. Okay. How about the other agents? Now, if you don't know this, if you get good at the business, the other agents may not say nice things about you all the time. You better not ever be guilty of saying bad things about other agents. So, the other thing you got to realize, and you need to explain this to people, I'm going to make more money off of other agents than I'm ever going to make off people on the street. Fair statement? I'm going to make more sales through other agents than I'm ever going to make just me, people calling me and doing business with me. It's impossible. If I list 100 homes every year, I'll be lucky if I sell 30 of them myself. And if I sell 30 of them myself, that is like about 3 times or 4 times That's at least 4 times the national average. I used to sell 30% of my listings, and that was 4 times the national average. So where did I make the most amount of money? From other agents. If you don't do this on a regular basis, it'll cost you. Last year, I had some buyers in my car from Edmonton. We got 2 days to buy a home. I found them the home. We're just about ready to go review it. And they want to buy this home. It was listed by some other company. And my phone went off and I took a look. And we had, one of the guys in the office, and Andrew just listed a property on Eagle Mountain. And I said to these folks, I said, you know, I just got a thing here, and I said, you should look at this house. And to make a long story short, I sold that house. And one of the things you're gonna learn, one of the things you're gonna learn to increase your business is learn to sell your office listings first. You sell your office listings first, and you know, I won't go into it, but you know what to do with those agents. I can turn all those agents into my slaves. They wake up in the morning thinking about me. If I sell their listings, they're gonna be thinking about me, and I'm gonna train them how to get up in the morning wanting to sell my listings. Because I did it first. You wanna receive a lot of blessings, you gotta give a lot of blessings. Giving opens the door to receiving. Okay. See, this is why you want to seed the back of your book with all your samples. And that's why you want to do it. Because they're not going to ask me that question. My package has all my sample brochures in it, right? They're only going to ask that to the person who's not doing anything. And finally, do you provide a home marketing book for prospects? This is like really over the top. And there's a few people in the room, or a few people in the room that might be using the real. Anybody using real marketing? See, now the real marketing has that book already done for you. If you're using real marketing services, they have this book, and I have to tell you, if you're listing and selling anything over $1 million, you produce that book for the listing, you will blow people out of the water. It's a thick international marketing book. That it's for that, and their home is featured in it. The book looks like it costs about $25 or $30 to buy. And we have a company that we work with. But I mean, you could produce a book like that for certain homes. I wouldn't recommend this on every home. So it's not a question that everybody's gonna have to deal with, but on certain homes. See, like if you're gonna go list something over $1 million, even in, you know, you might say $1 million is not that big of a deal, but it still is a big deal. You go list a home that's over $1 million, you need to crank up some of the stuff you do there. Crank it up a bit, and produce some stuff for that listing that's a little bit bigger, right?
Sorry, so this home marketing book is what? It features the home.
It features the home. It actually, here's what the one I used to make for certain homes. If somebody grabbed this book, which I would leave, it wasn't a takeaway, but it's a big binder that's in the home. It's got everything about that home and about that neighborhood and about everything that's in the neighborhood in that book. See, so it's way more than a brochure. It's got actual copies of the survey certificate. It's got actual copies of everything that's ever occurred there. If they built the home themselves, then I've asked them, see, anything they've done in the home, if they've been there for a while, they built the home, I ask them if they have the construction pictures. And then I get all the pictures and I put every bit of picture that I can find. The book is pictorial, but it's also got tons of detail.
So if a home has been completely renovated, that sells more than if you just saw a new home, the
Exactly.
finished product, right?
Exactly. So the whole history. See, the sellers love to help you with this. So I get most of the information from the sellers. You see, here's what a home marketing book is. A home marketing book is a book that's sitting in the home that any question a buyer has, the other agent there, you introduce them to the book, there's no question that they can ask that the answer isn't there. Or what's it cost to heat this place? Hang on a second, let's look at oh, there's utility bills. There's copies of the bills right here. Ray, what's it cost to get the pool service? What's the pool service for the cost? If the guy's if you've got a person that does their own pool and has their own list of instructions, that's in the book. How do I take care of the hot tub? Well, let's look at the hot tub tab. The book's got tabs. It's got everything in it. If you list $1 million home and you produce a book like that, this is a great reason to have an assistant. Because you don't want to spend your time doing that. But this is a great place to delegate this off and pay somebody to do it. Like if you pay somebody $100 to get that book done for you, it'll make $10,000. It'll be way more than 10 bucks. What time is it? We're done. The rest of the section, the rest of the section, the other part of the section is going to finish off some stuff with sellers, and then we'll go into buyers scripts. Is any of that helpful?
Yes, very much. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
You're welcome.